In Time was okay. It's a film hamstrung by a meh performance from Justin Timberlake, a half-baked Bonnie and Clyde romance, and a story that's a little too loose to accomplish its goals. So let's fix it. First, let me set the stage. In Time takes place in a world where everybody gets to 25, then stops aging. At that point, a clock on your wrist starts counting down from a year, forcing you to constantly top up to survive. If you don't, you comically die. So the rich are immortals who live in luxury, while the poor live day to day. As subtle as a brick, this movie. Anyway, that's the premise. Let's get to the rest. Per the usual, I'm gonna maintain the budget for this, and despite my better judgment, the cast.
It's gonna be May.
I will reserve the right to omit characters and switch roles around though, so look out for that. Now then, we're gonna see if changing things up can make something better this time. Get it? This time? This time? Somebody order a heist movie? Act 1, we're gathering the crew. Cold open featuring Justin Timberlake, whose name we'll get to later. He robs a bank by hacking into and compromising its security system, then by hacking his timecode to let him impersonate a wealthy investor. Afterward, he meets with his employer, who turns out to be Amanda Seyfried. She congratulates him on passing his test. When Justin asks for clarification, she explains that she's looking to put together a team. Squad introduction montage. Timberlake is given the codename Dusk. Seyfried is Dawn. First person they go to is this guy, codename Noon. He's the best gambler Dusk knows and will be using his abilities to great effect for this particular mission. Once he's told that he'll be able to afford medical procedures for his sick kid and lift his family out of poverty, he's in. Second person is this guy, codename Night. The crew can catch him doing bad boy stuff. You know, shaking people down and shooting out of cars. Anyway, he's the muscle. Also, I guess on this crew he is number 4. The montage ends with the crew acquiring a time loan. Since everyone else's credit is shot, Dawn has to get it, and she can only get, let's say, 6 hours to add on to the day or so everyone has. It'll take about a day to reach their target, so they're gonna be cutting it close. Meaning this mission is on a timer. So, what's the mission? Well, in this world, the rich rule all, like established earlier, while the poor live day to day. But there's a chance to ascend from the dregs of poverty to wealth. And that chance is the Millennium Key.
Wow!
What is the Millennium Key? Well, it's a whopping 10 million years of time, all stored in one platinum container. And it's within your reach. Yes, you! As long as you keep betting at your local gas station, casino, or bar, you will be entered into a pool of like-minded individuals for a chance at receiving the Millennium Key. Doesn't matter that no one has ever won it in the history of forever. It has never left Eon Tower, of course, nor has it left its owner and richest man in the country, Mr. Adam, because he keeps the Millennium Key under lock and key. But still, the opportunity is worth it, surely. No risk, no reward, and so on and so forth. Our squad wants that key. And despite their differing opinions on how to use the funds, there's more than enough for them to split anyway. So together they head for Eon Tower to commit the greatest heist the world has ever known. Our heroes arrive on the ground floor of Eon Tower, which is built kind of like one of those video game towers you have to climb up. You know, the video game tower, in every video game. Dawn is their way in, posing as a young heiress via identity theft. She gets our gang inside the casino, which is packed due to Mr. Adam himself wandering the floor to mingle with patrons. No need to worry about him, no sir. Noon sits down to gamble and earn some fast cash. Time. He plays blackjack instead of poker because I don't know how to play poker, okay? Shut up. Noon starts racking up funds from winning. He then transfers said funds to his teammates. Dusk, Night, and Dawn take the elevator to the second floor, which is a dance club. They don masks to match the rest of the dancers, then are off. We see some club-goers doing what's called a death loop. In other words, in this world when your time runs out, you die, like in the OG. But in this version, you don't die instantly. Instead, you can survive for around 4 minutes. So what these fine folks are doing is voluntarily dying, then getting revived by a friend to experience the rush of resurrection. Nutty, I know, but stick with me. Our heroes go backstage, immediately encountering guards who try to stop them. Knight handles them with a beautiful display of fisticuffs, then he and Dusk drain the unconscious guards of their time. But they only get a few hours total, since the guards deposit their funds at the start of their shift and get paid in halves before getting their money back. Kind of like clocking in and out. Dawn is disturbed when her allies drain the guards, asking if it's necessary.
They don't care about us.
Knight starts.
So we don't care about them.
Dusk finishes. Dawn clearly disagrees, but doesn't argue. After hiding the bodies, Dusk uses an access card to get them into a stairwell that goes past the 3rd floor to the 4th. Said 4th floor hosts pools and saunas, which our heroes navigate around. While doing so, Dawn gets sucked into a conversation with a former friend, outing her as not an identity thief, but an actual young heiress. Meanwhile, Dusk gets a call from Noon, who's back on the 1st floor.
Guys? We've got a problem.
Apparently, Noon has been such a winner-winner chicken dinner that he's attracted attention from not just the staff, but the owner. Mr. Adam himself has challenged Noon to a personal game of blackjack, best 2 out of 3. Dusk wants to abandon Noon, but Dawn points out that they need a top-up of time to survive. So she, Dusk, and Knight take the elevator back down to the 1st floor. En route, Dusk clashes with Dawn over her status as an heiress. Dawn claims that the team didn't need to know, then explains that yes, she was one of the upper class before she lost her fortune. But after losing her wealth, she grew to understand and sympathize with the downtrodden she used to ignore. In response, Knight gives his reason for the heist. His sister was a dancer at a club similar to Eon Tower, until a clerical error left her without pay and caused her to time out, resulting in her death. As recompense, his family was given a gift card for the same club. So he wants to hurt the ruling class who hurt him. After hearing that, Dawn nods.
We have revenge in common then.
Dusk says he's just in it for the money. Back to Noon. Him and Mr. Adam go at it in blackjack. During their bout, Mr. Adam waxes poetic about how he likes to take a hands-on approach to managing his world, commenting that he feels the need to visit the casino floor often and prune potential problems. Noon tries to keep his cool and just play. Our plucky gambler loses round 1, then wins round 2. Before round 3, Mr. Adam ups the bet to max out Noon, making him put all 8 years he's acquired on the table. Then during the final round, Noon gets a 10.
Hit me.
And another 10. So at 20, he stays. But Mr. Adam reveals that he has a 10 and an ace.
21.
Noon times out just as the others arrive. The squad briefly meets Mr. Adam before carting their 4th member to the bathroom, only to be followed by security. A classic bathroom brawl occurs. When a guard's gun goes off, alarms send the casino into lockdown. The squad regroups, hoping to revive Noon, only to realize a stray bullet domed him.
Oops.
Guess he wasn't so lucky after all. The squad drains the unconscious guards. Dusk and Knight steal uniforms to pose as Dawn's protectors, then the 3 head out. Lockdown has disabled the elevators, so our squad uses their stolen access card to take the stairwell all the way to the 4th floor and its separate elevator hallway. This time, Knight clears the hallways of onlookers with threats, then Dusk hacks the elevator doors open so our squad can manually climb up. Floor 5 is the staff and maintenance floor. Here is the Motherlode, a place with direct access to the top-level suites, since staff need to go to and from there. The elevator also functions despite lockdown, so the execs can get their treats and service. There's only 2 problems. 1, the elevator to the executive suites is heavily guarded, and 2, the elevator itself is monitored by camera, so if our heroes ascend without authorization, they're just gonna get shut down. So Dusk hatches a plan. First, he hacks Dawn's time code so she looks absurdly wealthy. The code won't hold up to scrutiny or actually pay anything, but it's good for subterfuge. Second, after a lot of back and forth, Dusk convinces Knight to change into civilian clothing. Then he gets Knight to time himself out. The clock starts. Dawn approaches the elevator with Dusk right behind carrying Knight. They pose as a young heiress and a bodyguard who took out one of the intruders, demanding access to the exec suites for her safety and reward. The guards reluctantly agree. The elevator goes up, 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 while the clock ticks. The doors open, and the trio is taken directly to none other than Mr. Adam. The owner of Eon Tower comments that he wanted to see the body himself out of morbid curiosity. He then monologues about the futility of whatever the intruders were attempting, while the seconds tick by. When a guard gets close enough, Dusk hits him, stealing the guy's gun and shooting the other. Dawn revives Night. Dusk takes Mr. Adam hostage. Night helps Dawn sit down in the corner, then gets Dusk's attention. During the fight, Dawn was shot, and she's bleeding out. In a fit of rage, Night runs from the room and shuts the reinforced door behind him. Then he hunkers down to head off reinforcements and buy the others time. Back inside, Dusk gets into Mr. Adam's computer, searching, then eventually gives up. He puts his gun to Mr. Adam's head, then demands to know where the Millennium Key is so they can take it, take him hostage, and escape. And in response, Mr. Adam just laughs. You silly little child. Your fabled dream isn't real. The Millennium Key isn't real. He goes on to explain that the key was invented as a myth to give the lowborn of society hope. Hope that one day they too could arise. But that it was a lie. Always. Nothing will change. Nothing can change. Those who rule will continue their reign, and those who don't will eat one another. Forever. Mr. Adam then tells Dusk that despite everything, he likes him. And he's willing to give him a job because of his moxie. Heck, he'll even get Dawn medical attention. Although Night is definitely already dead, as evidenced by the lack of gunfire and sounds of men getting equipment to break down the door. Dusk considers the offer. Then he considers Dawn, who shakes her head. Afterward, Dusk sits next to Dawn, holding her hand, and the two wait for the guards to breach, while the screen fades to black. Film journalist Henry Barnes called the protagonist of this movie a Roblox Robin Hood. Wait, what? Who wrote that? I meant a Rolex Robin Hood. And I find that apt. In the OG, Will Solis's mom dies, and the next day he's eating fine dining and flirting with his waitress. Will feels hollow. The revolution Will ignites feels hollow. It's too clean, it's too quick, it's too easy. And that can be said about In Time in general. Amanda Seyfried's character goes from being intrigued by Will to being afraid of Will to being in love with Will in rapid succession. Here's how Will deals with an impossible situation where he's locked into an arm wrestle to the death and surrounded by enemies. The final boss forgets to give himself time, a process that takes less than 3 seconds. So here's how he goes out. A thriller is made by tension, and tension is made by strife. What I wanted to do was shift this narrative from Easy Street to Hard Luck Lane. Our crew should struggle at every turn and use their wits to wriggle out of bad scenarios, until of course their luck runs out. I also wanted the heroes of this movie to be less heroic than their OG counterparts. They're thieves, after all. Making them morally gray not only makes them more entertaining, at least to me, but also challenges the audience to make their own decisions on how to feel about the team's actions. That is something In Time needed, for its audience to lock in, as the cool kids say. A sharper blade of tension to cut a stronger thematic through line, so that this movie wouldn't feel like such a waste of potential, and a waste of time. That's all for this one. Like and subscribe because I've got more fixes, essays, and rewrites in the works. And speaking of, for my next rewrite... Until then, though, cheers.